little, just in case somebody new is watching this, I think we should do a little rundown of the teams of Formula One. And we'll just give our honest opinion. We'll be very transparent about it all. We'll tell the people exactly where we're aligned so that when we go over this drama that'll come up later in the episode.
Okay, now this is going to be brief?
Yeah. We'll just run through it, you know? Call it a hot lap. Today's Friday on a Silverstone weekend too. There's a lot has happened, and if I don't do this now, a lot more will happen. So I'm going to be brief, but this is how the points in the teams stand as of this exact moment. Things could change. I don't even know if they have taken into a point that Racing Point has been booted down the line. Okay, we're starting with Mercedes. The drivers are Valtteri Bottas and, of course, Lewis Hamilton. Just give your honest opinion. Tell me what there is to know about Mercedes.
Well, Mercedes has obviously technically made the best car. There's no question.
No question.
You could swap some other drivers of equal or close to equal talent to their current drivers, and they would be turning similar lap times.
Mm-hmm. They're fast. And they've been fast for a while now. I looked up the year, but once again, we're unqualified, so I didn't write down the year.
There's a classic saying in racing, horsepower equals dollars, how fast you want to go, how much you want to spend. Mercedes, obviously has pretty much unlimited resources, development of that engine and the reliability of their engine. Compared to some other teams that we won't mention their names, that engines are not as reliable.
Ferrari.
So Mercedes, when you have the best of everything,
including,
and the organization is unbelievable.
Yeah.
And then they have talented drivers.
Yeah, okay. I'm going to be straightforward. I'm going to be honest. Lewis Hamilton is not my favorite. I wouldn't call myself a Lewis Hamilton fan. However, and I'll only say this once, there's no question he doesn't have talent. There's no question that he's not good at what he does, or else he wouldn't do what he does. And he wouldn't be a 5-time world champion, probably 6 this year. That's just my prediction.
Yeah.
And Valtteri Bottas, I think he's great too, and I think that, we'll talk about it with Red Bull, but I think that if the resources were necessarily equal, we'd see a more equal result, because that car is fast. Speaking of Red Bull,
he eats his porridge.
Power of porridge.
Speaking of Red Bull, let's move to Red Bull. Drivers are Alexander Albon and, of course, Max Verstappen.
I totally respect Max. Even though he is the son of a famous F1 driver, he has not fallen back on just, I'm the son of an F1 driver.
Yeah.
He shows extreme talent, drive, willingness to take chances. He pushes his car and himself. You watch him catch it when he's in the wet. The guy's talented and he's pretty fearless.
Well, with that being said, I think that Red Bull, again, was a world championship winning team, I should say, and they want to get back there, and they're limping back there. I think that they're doing fine, although as the points stand, they have 78 points and Mercedes has 146, just for context. But I think Red Bull has every facility, every driver to get to that point. In all fairness to Alex, I think that it is a case of the Max Verstappen show at Red Bull. And I feel for Alex just because I really like the guy. I really like what he does. I like who he is as a person, how he presents himself, and I think that he has a lot of potential, and I think he has a great attitude. I wish that the resources, again, would be equal, because I think Alex can win just as many races as Max.
Well, and I think part of it is about seat time. Alex has not learned the Red Bull car as well. Max is he's willing to take what's given and make it work.
Yeah, and I think
Alex is more of the driver, let's make it work for me.
Well, I don't know. In some ways I agree, in some ways I disagree. I think that I would agree more with that if Red Bull was more patient with their newer drivers.
Well, yeah.
If Christian Horner was not so maybe it's not just Christian, I'm sure it's the whole team. If they were more focused on, okay, how are we going to prepare this driver to be good in our car, and not just how are we going to throw a driver, we're just going to throw Alex into a brand new car that he's raced in for half of his season and expect the best and not even give him full power. When you have a driver who's saying, why am I not getting full power? I think that's a red flag, and I think that reflects badly on your team. Just from a PR point of view. Okay, next up, I'll cover this one, okay, is McLaren. McLaren's my favorite team. I'm not even going to try to hide it. Lando Norris is my favorite driver. Once again, I love who he is. I think he's a great guy. I think he's a team player. I will be completely honest. I am very much not a fan of billionaires, and I recognize that Lando is the son of a billionaire, but you'd never know it. In fact, I didn't know it until I looked on Wikipedia. So that's Lando. Lando's talented, and he puts the work in, and he puts the work in with his team, and I think that it shows when he's getting P3s in his second year in Formula One in a car that's maybe not at Red Bull level. And when Scenario 7 comes on and he's passing 3 cars on the final lap. I mean, I think that there's talent there, and I think he puts in the work. The other driver is, of course, Carlos Sainz. Again, similar. I think he's great. I don't know him, but I think he's great.
Yeah, but I have to say, Carlos, I saw him on a driver interview the other day. You know, they really don't do press conferences quite the same anymore. But so they were asking him some questions, and I was just so impressed with the way that he would answer questions. English is not his first language, and he is completely
confident.
Not even that. Like, he uses a way to express himself that's, he's not trying to be politically correct, but he comes out really smooth and well spoken.
He's you can
smooth
see.
Operator.
There you go. Okay, you can go ahead with this one. These are your guys.
Well, I've always been a Ferrari fan, being partly Italian.
You just have to add that in.
And Sebastian, I feel like he's gotten a bad deal. And Charles is just a rising star, and he's amazing. And the guy has come up so far so fast, but he's also paid his dues, like many of them, racing go-karts his whole life.
Well, let me ask you a question. This is a question I think about a lot. Do you think he has bad luck, or do you think that eventually it's just going to catch up to him and he's going to work through it, and all those things have made him the driver he is today?
Yeah, I think that's it. And that his psychologically, he's really resilient. Like, he gets down on himself, but then you can see him in an interview later, and he doesn't let the media get to him. He's always kind of like, yeah, we're working on it. We're getting better. And we were happy to get what we've got. And Sebastian's, he, most of the time, he can be pretty calm about stuff, but then also he's also willing to just say what he thinks. And when the media asks him a stupid question, he'll say, well, you were watching.
What happened between you and Valtteri? You didn't see? I saw it. So why you ask?
Yeah, let me tell you what I like about Seb. I think, he's a racer, and he's not in it necessarily because of the paycheck. Similar to Kimi. We can talk about Kimi in a minute. More of a minute than you think. But I think he's a racer, and he does it because he loves it. And that's who he is, at heart. And he's also cool. He has a good attitude. He's good for media. He's a good team player until things aren't going exactly his way. And then I think sometimes you hear about it.
Yeah, but he also has a sense of humor, too.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah, and I think he should be respected for the achievements that he's come through. And I think right now Ferrari's struggling as an organization, and that's one of the contrasts with Mercedes.
Yeah, they do. They are hyper-organized there.
Yes.
Okay, next up is a team that has been making waves this season, even though we're 5 races in or whatever, but it's Racing Point. And, there's all kinds of stuff we can talk about, but our drivers are Lance Stroll and, at the moment, Checo Perez / Nico Hülkenberg.
Yes.
What do you think? What are your thoughts about Racing Point?
Well, Racing Point is kind of like a development team for Mercedes, right?
I would say so.
They're running the Mercedes power unit, and maybe
the Mercedes car.
we need to blow on the brakes a little bit for the brake ducts. But
that was some shade, if you.
Yeah. So anyway, I don't know. Racing Point, I respect the fact that they're a smallish team, somewhat limited resources, but they have that connection to Mercedes, and they're doing the best they can with what they got. You know, racing's about, you know, it's not cheating. It's
finding the holes in the rules.
Yes.
I think, well, okay, I'm going to tell you my opinions on Lance Stroll and Checo Perez, and eventually later we'll talk about Nico. But I think Lance gets a lot of crap because a lot of people say that he's a pay-to-play driver. And I think that if he was just a pay-to-play driver, he wouldn't be getting podiums, and he has gotten podiums. I think he's got to have some kind of talent.
Yeah, anyone who can sit in an F1 car and complete a race and stay on the pavement, there's some talent just to do that, just to complete the race.
And I think that I wish that he had a different name as his dad did. I wish so badly so that he could just be disconnected from that so that he can make his own narrative. Because I think that in many ways, that's the narrative that's been written for him. And he hasn't been able to get away from that. I don't even know. I mean, maybe that's something I'd like to do some research on about how much he feels about that, how strongly he feels. Because if it were me, first of all, it must be nice. Second of all, it must be hard. And Checo Perez, I think, is the opposite. Where Checo, you know, I don't know a whole lot about Checo's past, but Checo has a huge following in Mexico. And I think that he's deserved it. He's bounced around from teams. He's raced his hardest. I think he's a good guy. He's got some rough, up and down luck this season. But I'd love to know where he'll be next year. Moving on. Renault.
Yeah. Well, I have to say, Daniel Ricciardo.
I know, we do like to say that because we're Italian.
He's a great personality. He makes the best of whatever hardware he's sitting in.
He's a racer.
Yeah.
I love Daniel. Daniel's another guy that I would just love to sit down and have a conversation with him, even if it's not about racing, because he comes across as, you know, the class clown and the joker and the very lighthearted. He's there for a laugh. But I also think he's got so much wisdom that he doesn't even get credit for. I would love to just have Daniel Ricciardo, if you're watching this, you know, you can be in this hot seat right here on my bedroom floor. Esteban Ocon, what do you think?
Well, another, you know, paid some dues, came up, and to end up in an F1 seat, not in a top team, but still a good accomplishment to get to where he is.
I think we should note some sources that I'm not a very great reader. So I do love videos and I love audio. With that being said, Will Buxton, WTF1, and Drive to Survive on Netflix that is my source. That's what I like to watch. That's what I like to do in my free time. And I would have never known enough about Esteban Ocon if it weren't for Drive to Survive. And I just saw him sitting there in that first season and they were talking to him and my heart broke for him because I think that he loves racing and he does it because he loves it and this is his everything to him. He's this like small town kid who this is just what he wants to do. I don't think you hear those stories a lot in Formula One. You hear him in IndyCar, you hear him in NASCAR. But you know, how many small town kids where you're like, I just want to do this because I'm talented and I love doing it. Not because my dad is rich and I have connections and I can go to Silverstone every weekend to race go-karts. Not that that's a thing that happens. Anyways, that's my thoughts. AlphaTauri / Toro Rosso. I'll never stop calling it Toro Rosso. Daniel Kvyat.
Well, just glad that he's feeling strong and healthy to drive a full race after all the things he's been through.
Yeah.
You know, and it shows that his love for the sport.
Yeah. I think Daniel is confident, maybe overconfident. He does have the nickname the Torpedo.
You came like a torpedo.
And I think that I don't know a lot about him if I'm being honest. But I think that he loves doing it, and that's why he's there. I think all of these guys love doing it, and that's why they're there. But you know, certain people it shows more than others. But it is he's gotten a few chances now.
Well, yeah.
Well, okay. Speaking of a love for racing and not the best luck, Pierre Gasly. I think Pierre. Okay, let me just for context. I was only started getting invested in Formula 1 has always been a part of my life because it's something that you've been invested in. But I was not invested until a couple 2 or 3 years ago. And I remember seeing Pierre Gasly on Toro Rosso and thinking, okay, yeah, I don't know anything about racing, but this kid might go far. Because I think he's talented, he's a good guy, and he tries his best, and he gives it everything. And I was so excited when he got signed with Red Bull last year, and I was so excited. But I think, once again, he's just another example of Red Bull not necessarily wanting to put the time in with their newer drivers because they can't. I mean, that's the thing. They can't. They can't afford to. They want to be the world champion team.
Part of that whole pack of kids that came up through go-karting together.
Charles, Alex, George, Lando,
Yeah, so they're all of that young guns rising up thing.
Yeah.
Alpha
Indeed. Alfa Romeo Racing. Kimi Räikkönen, who is, of course, be honest, your favorite.
My favorite.
Where would you be without Kimi?
The Iceman.
What would we say in casual conversation? We wouldn't. We would just never talk if it wasn't for Kimi.
They'd leave me alone. I know what to do.
I know, and I say that quite often. Kimi is, if you don't know Kimi, you're missing out, because Kimi is, you know what, you talk about Kimi.
Well, for one thing, besides the fact that he has been a world champion, he has the personality of, he's just a racer.
Yeah.
He's not about the media. He's not about the glamour. Now, in the past, he was a bit of a party
womanizer.
Yeah,
type.
you know, but he's settled down now. He has a couple kids. He's happily married.
Happy anniversary, Kimi. I think today's his anniversary.
Oh, see, but the thing is that he could have retired.
And he did it.
But he's willing to work with the team because he's also known for giving great feedback to the team about how to improve their car.
I agree.
He's a veteran. He knows what he's doing, even though he wants to be left alone.
And, well, in contrast, let's talk about Antonio Giovinazzi. In theory, we should love him. We should love Giovinazzi because he's a good Italian boy. But I know nothing about him. Absolutely nothing. I mean, you don't even hear his name in commentary. I know nothing about him.
Yeah, it seems like he's in Kimi's shadow somewhat.
Yeah. Well, how can you not be?
And usually he doesn't out-qualify Kimi, but sometimes he does.
Mm-hmm.
But another young driver who probably deserves to get some more experience and see what happens.
Well, speaking of experience, let's speak about Haas. We've got Kevin Magnussen and Romain Grosjean. First of all, from a PR point of view, once again, I know nothing about PR. I know that's what I want to do, but right now I'm so, let's say it together, unqualified to talk anything about this. I just love to pretend. It's just they're not good for each other in terms of PR. They don't like each other. You watch a show like Drive to Survive, which has brought so many new fans into the sport, and that's what you see. That's the way you're going to represent your team. I think there's a lot of opportunities because Haas is, you know, the American team representing, in some ways, the American dream. And that's who you choose to represent you. Two drivers that are great on their own but not great together and crash into each other and don't like each other.
Well, wouldn't it be amazing if they got, I don't know,
Alexander
Rossi in one of those seats? I
would love it. Do you have anything to say? I will talk about Kevin Magnussen for a second. I was listening to Formula 1 Beyond the Grid, his episode, and, you know, they were talking about his dad. He was a teen dad. You know, Kevin kind of didn't necessarily grow up being the priority in his dad's life in the beginning because his dad was racing in Formula 1. And, you know, this is a sport that takes everything. But yet Kevin was racing. And I think Kevin has a really good story. And I think that he may be reckless at times, but I also think he's some talent, and there's a reason why he's been in this sport as long as he has been. And I think Roman, I don't have so many great things to say about Roman, just because to me he's kind of like, in my mind, I'm sure he's a great guy. He has a cookbook with his wife, which is just, I could flame him for multiple reasons on why that's maybe not my favorite thing. But, you know, I don't know if this is what he wants his life to be. I don't know if this is how he envisioned things to go.
Or maybe he would be a better fit in a endurance championship or something, you know, more sports cars. And for one thing, you know, the wheels are enclosed, so when you rub against the wall, you don't necessarily break your car.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I'd like to see, I think that'd be really interesting. We can talk more about that later, because I think that's a good starter. But let's finish it off with Williams. First of all, shout out to Claire Williams. I think she's a great lady, and I think that she pours everything into her team. She knows what to expect, but she doesn't let that stop her. She doesn't quit. And I think that that says so much about her dad and her legacy, and the fact that she wants there to be a legacy. Let's talk about drivers. Nicholas Latifi and George Russell. I think that that was strategic for them to put two racers who can develop that car. And to have future teams. I mean, obviously, George Russell is Mercedes' golden boy in the future. The next Lewis Hamilton, if you ask me. That's just my prediction, everybody.
George!
I think that was smart. I don't know a lot about Nicholas Latifi, but he seems like a good guy. And I respect him for getting in there on what, you know, it's pretty widespread belief that that's the worst Formula One team. And he got in there and he did it anyways.
Entry level.
I think he's, once again, I know that he has money, or his parents have money, and I think that there's some pay to play once again. I don't know a lot about him, but I've heard that. But I think that, you know, obviously I did do some Wikipedia research in the past, and he has won in lower level series. He has made his way up. So, I'd love to see where he goes. George, I also would love to see where he goes. I think once he gets into a Mercedes, he's going to be good. He's going to be fast. He's shown that he can qualify fast. You know, the car is not competitive necessarily, but I think that, you know, 10 years from now, we'll be saying George Russell will have a different story. And that's that.